Good evening. As of 1800 hours Eastern Standard Time yesterday, I have begrudgingly signed up to the Vimeo Pro plan. And I didn't do this because I thought it was a good idea, even though part of me thinks maybe it's a good idea. I did this because the deadline elapsed, the 2-week deadline that they had given me, in which I needed to sign up before my account is suspended and all my video content will be deleted. So there's several things that happened in the meantime since the last video, and I really appreciate your comment, Amir, about what happened, and I feel exactly the same way. So let me give you a quick update of what's happened. So I'm working, this is my last day of work, so yesterday during work I kept an eye on the Reddit community. I've joined a few there. The Patreon is one, Vimeo is one, YouTube, Twitch. Those are the ones I'm kind of being notified about what people are asking. And it just so happened that a Patreon person in the Patreon subreddit, whatever it's called, they said, hey, I just had my Vimeo account deleted with no warning whatsoever. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. So I read that, and it turns out the same thing happened to him. So he had a Plus plan, Vimeo Plus plan. And in his case, he was connected to Vimeo, which mine is also. My Patreon is connected to, well, Vimeo is connected to Patreon. And because of that connection, Vimeo have found out, if you're connected Patreon, that means in our book, you're using commercial content. And in his case, they didn't even send him a warning. So they just deactivated his account and all his content is now gone. And what's even weirder is that he was inquiring with Vimeo and said, hey, what did I actually violate there? And they said, well, I'm afraid we can't tell you anymore because the account is gone. And I was thinking, oh my God, that's unbelievable. So this is how quickly it can happen, and this is how fast content can disappear. So I read that yesterday and I was thinking, oh my God, I must make sure I'm not gonna fall victim of the same crime essentially, and I must make sure my footage is secure and we can sort out a refund of that Pro plan later, or maybe I'll keep it, I don't know. It's one of those things that spins around in my mind. I was thinking I must make sure I secure my footage. I won't have time to do it within the 2 weeks. So I quickly signed up, and the problem is still that, of course, the 2-week deadline might have been enough had Rohit gotten back to me in time and answered all my questions. Because according to their terms and conditions, I should receive a response from customer service within 4 hours. That's the idea. If you're a paying customer, you get priority customer support. I believe Pro members get it within 2 hours, Plus members get it within 4 hours, and then free members, well, they'll just have to wait. And my responses on average took about 2 days from Rohit. And when they did come, they didn't even answer my questions. So I was thinking, well, those 2 weeks were basically over, and I just wanted to make sure my footage is not being deleted. So for now, I'm a Pro member. And because I was still uneasy about how we can't just leave it like that, I can't just be blackmailed by Vimeo and then we'll forget the whole thing ever happened and everything is hunky-dory again. No, I've been mistreated as a customer, and so it's just reaching out to them on their regular support forum just didn't quite work. So I reached out on Twitter, and that was somewhat successful. So they said to me, hey, that's interesting. Looks like Rohit is the right department you're speaking to there. And I said, yeah, the trouble is he's not responding. And they said, well, give me your case number. Maybe I can at least look into that. And lo and behold, a few hours later, so it always takes a few hours. It doesn't really happen within a few minutes or instantaneously like it happens with Adobe. You have a question to Adobe and you tweet them, and literally minutes later they will get in touch and they will solve this thing with you via DM. And I think it's very important for companies to provide that level of customer service, especially if you're giving away vast amounts of cash. At least that's what it feels like to me. I'm a small guy. I don't really, I do care about every dollar that I spend on tech stuff. So yeah, it's important for me to to get service back there. It's yeah, I can't afford to just waste hundreds of dollars on and just not get anything in return because it's just a quick tax write-off. It's not like that for me. So anyway, I gave him the case number of my latest discussion that Rohit never got back to me, and haven't heard back from them on Twitter. But a few hours later I get an email that says, hey, my name is Christy, I'm assigning this case to somebody who is better equipped in helping you. So at least that happened, at least they're kind of on the case there. But other than that email, I haven't actually heard anything yet from anybody. So we'll see how it progresses. I think what I must say, it's gone a little bit beyond the questions that I had there for them in regards to what can I do with the Plus account. The question is much bigger now, namely, is Vimeo the right partner for me going forward? I mean, I explained this to a friend of mine the other day. The reason why I have all my content stored in a place other than YouTube is because you never know what happens. So YouTube is good at the moment, and it continues to be good for me, but there's some features that are lacking, of course, at YouTube, and that is, for example, download your footage at the original resolution. They don't allow you to do that. You can download it in 720p, but 1080p footage you can't download. You can't download the original file. You'll always get a transcoded version. There are hacks around it. There's a Firefox embedder that you can extract 1080p videos from, which come out of sync, but it's also not quite the original resolution. It's always a compressed version. And Vimeo offer you the full res file, the original file, as well as transcoded version. So, you know, and of course not all my footage is on YouTube. Like the sensitive footage that I have, namely my cancer diary, that is on Vimeo, and it's only on Vimeo because back in the hospital that's the only way I could upload footage that would stay there. I just didn't have there's so much has happened there that I didn't have enough external storage space or internal storage space on my phone. I had to offload this somewhere, and Vimeo was the most convenient solution there. So the case is ongoing, but I think the bigger thing is now not so much is a pro plan good for me going forward or not. It is how did this case pan out, and what shady tactics are these to blackmail people into paying triple of what they used to pay, and then not even getting back to you in, you know, how can we find a median resolution there? There's either pay or we delete your footage. Those are the only two options, and this is what I was really missing in this whole discussion about, well, where's the middle ground then? Can't I stay like a minimum paying customer, and for that I will delete all my commercial videos? Can you please tell me what the commercial videos are that violate your terms and conditions? Those types of discussions that were just not there, and it appears Vimeo was not open to it. So the other stories that I heard, and I'll link to that in the description of the video, the Reddit thread that I've had there, the experience this other guy had, and the thought that perhaps Vimeo are cracking down on literally anyone with a Plus account that has their Patreon account connected. If they're cracking down on this, they're really pushing out small people, the small paying customers, and basically eliminating the Plus plan and how we can use it all together. And I think the bigger issue is now, how can we make this, first of all, avoid this for other people going forward, that they don't make such an experience. And this is kind of down to Vimeo to listen and really take the story to heart and say, hey, if we want to have the brand that we once had, then we really need to change the way we approach customers and we talk to customers. Or are they going to go, hey, we just don't care, we've got enough business customers, we don't really need you guys who give us a pitiful penance of $7 a month, we really don't need you guys. Could also be that they go that way. I have a feeling they might do that, like Amir was suggesting about Nokia. It's the same thing happened. Corporate greed takes over. I mean, in 2017 there's a new guy who took over the CEO-ship of Vimeo, and I don't know if that's when things started to go really downhill. Possibly. It was never like that. I always had good experiences with Vimeo, and this is seriously terrible. So number one, let's try and avoid maybe other customers having that experience that I had. And number two, make this right for me, Vimeo. That's important. Make this right. So I don't know, anything. Give me 50% off the Pro plan for this year because you've coerced me into paying for it. Give me 50% off. And next year we can talk. And then at least I have another year to either download my footage or get used to the idea that, hey, it's going to cost me triple going forward to stay with Vimeo. These are options that I currently don't have. And I resent the idea that I'm going to have to pay so much money for the Pro plan. Reflecting on this though, reflecting on what the Pro plan means for my workflow, I must admit though that I think it might actually make sense to go with it, because video is kind of my business and it turns out to become bigger and bigger going forward. So I'm thinking that perhaps it might not be a bad choice of investing into proper backup infrastructure that I have there that I currently don't have with YouTube. And a hard drive, yeah, that kind of works, but there's always metadata that's difficult to save. And organizationally, it's just easier to have that in a secured place. You know, if it is secure, I mean, if they can ditch you at the drop of a hat, it might not be as secure as I had thought. So, you know, lots of thoughts that I have around that topic of perhaps having a Pro plan that is a good idea. I don't know. It always comes down to the fact, do I do something because I believe in it, or is it something that's forced upon me? That makes a huge difference for me. Like I said this before about Adobe versus Blender. I used to pay Adobe $10 a month for Photoshop, and I resented it, and I give the Blender Foundation the same amount of money, and I love doing that. I don't even think about it. It doesn't matter if I use Blender or not. I believe in the cause, and so it's easy for me to give them that money because I think it's a good idea, and I do this by my own volition. But with Adobe, I feel like I'm almost like, you know, held at gunpoint. If you want to use Photoshop, you have to pay us. And rather than you have the choice, I think this is always, for me, it's always a big thing that if I feel I don't have a choice, a middle ground, hey, you can use your old version of Photoshop. You can buy the upgrade every 2 or 3 years. Do it in whatever way works for you. If that's missing, I do have a problem with that. And with Vimeo, it's now exactly the same thing. It's something that I'm missing in the middle ground there. Music is another good example. I'm paying $15 a month for Epidemic. I barely use them, but I love the idea of being able to. And that is worth $15 for me to be able to tap into good stock library of music there. I pay $10 a month to Spotify, even though I barely listen to them. But it doesn't matter because I believe in the cause. And with Vimeo, I'd say, hey, that's a business investment. So if it came from within me to say $20 a month that's worth it for me to be able to access my footage at all times and to do this above board and do anything and everything commercial with them, sell videos with them and all that. If I did this from my own way of thinking, it would be a totally different ballgame. I'd say, hey, I'm happy to do this, but because I'm coerced into doing it, that is where I really have an issue. I will keep you posted as to what happens next. I welcome any thoughts that you have on this matter. If there wasn't the coercion aspect, what would you suggest I do? Shall I go with the Pro plan because it makes sense for my, I don't know, I don't really want to call it business, but it is kind of it is what I do. It is kind of my advanced hobby, I guess. I do produce a lot of videos. I do need a platform that is independent of YouTube if I want for that content to survive anything and everything that may happen. I mean, YouTube, I've heard stories that channels are being deleted with literally no notice on YouTube as well. You never know what can happen. Copyright infringement might accidentally happen that leads to channel deletion. These things happen, and I just want to make sure my footage is safe. Let me know what you think.